It was a quiet night in the outskirts of Bayfield County, the kind of silence that made every rustle of wind through the trees sound like footsteps. Officer Ray Morales sipped his lukewarm coffee as his partner, Officer Dana Holloway, scanned the near-empty road from the passenger seat of their cruiser. They had been running their usual late-night patrol, mostly dealing with speeding teens, minor disturbances, and the occasional drunk driver. But this night was different. At 2:37 a.m., a motorcycle appeared in the distance. It was unlike anything either of them had seen before. Matte black, no visible plates, no rear lights, and a sleek, almost organic design that seemed to absorb the light rather than reflect it. Morales raised an eyebrow. "That thing looks like it came out of a movie," Holloway murmured, sitting up straighter. Morales nodded. "Yeah, but it's still a vehicle without a license plate. That gives us cause." He flicked on the red and blue lights and pulled onto the road. The motorcycle didn't speed up or try to escape. It simply slowed down and drifted smoothly to the shoulder as though anticipating the stop. The rider wore a dark helmet with a seamless visor, fully enclosing their face, and a black armored jacket with no visible logos or markings. Morales approached from the driver's side while Holloway flanked from the other. As they neared, the sense of unease grew. There was something about the way the rider sat, too still, too precise. "Evening," Morales began, keeping his tone calm. "We stopped you because your bike doesn't have a plate and you didn't signal your lane change. Can I see your license and registration?" The rider remained silent for a moment. Then a voice emerged from the helmet, flat and modulated, like a machine trying to sound human. "You're not authorized to engage." Morales blinked. "Excuse me?" "You are operating outside of jurisdiction. Immediate withdrawal is advised." Holloway frowned and placed a hand on her taser. "Sir, or ma'am, we need you to step off the bike, now." There was a faint whir, a sound like a computer powering up. The bike emitted a low hum. The rider didn't move. "Is that some kind of threat?" Morales asked, trying to keep his voice steady. "No threat, merely protocol." The lights on the motorcycle flickered in a rapid sequence. Blue, red, white, then off. Holloway reached for her radio. "This is Unit 7 to dispatch. We've got a 10-38 on County Road 14, requesting backup. Subject is non-compliant, possible tech enhancement, no visible ID." The radio hissed and went dead. Morales tried his shoulder mic. Nothing. Dead air. Then came the rumble. Faint at first, like distant thunder, then growing steadily louder. The officers turned to look behind them. At the far end of the road, lights emerged, rows upon rows of them. Not headlights from a few cars, but an entire convoy. The earth trembled beneath their feet as the vehicles came into view. Military-grade Humvees, at least 50 of them, moving in tight formation. Each vehicle bore a strange insignia, an eagle split down the middle with circuitry instead of feathers. "What the hell?" Holloway breathed. The convoy surrounded them in a matter of moments. Armed soldiers in black exosuits poured out of the trucks with synchronized precision, forming a perimeter around the cruiser, the officers, and the mysterious biker. Then she appeared. A woman stepped down from the lead Humvee. Tall, composed, with short-cropped hair and a hard, angular face. She wore a reinforced tactical uniform marked only by a single bar on her collar and a small badge on her chest that read, "Capt. E. Miles, G.D. Unit 9. She didn't look at the officers. She went straight to the biker and issued a command in a language neither Holloway nor Morales could understand. The biker responded with a short data burst, a high-pitched pulse that made both officers wince. Captain Miles turned toward them, eyes cold. "Officers Morales and Holloway, your shift is over. You are hereby relieved of jurisdiction. Turn over your weapons and submit to escort. Immediately." Morales stared at her in disbelief. "This is our town. What the hell is this? Who are you people? She raised a hand. I don't have time to explain. But know this, what you've interfered with tonight is classified at the highest levels of national security. If you continue to obstruct, you will be detained under Article 17C of the Homeland Sovereignty Protocol. Holloway's hand drifted back toward her weapon, but she froze when 3 laser-targeting dots appeared on her chest. Don't, Miles said, with a chilling calm. Morales looked back at the rider, who now stood beside the bike, visor still down, silent and unmoving like a statue made of weaponized intent. They hadn't just stopped the wrong bike. They'd stepped into a war they didn't know existed. The stillness that followed Captain Miles' command was heavier than any silence Morales or Holloway had ever experienced. Dozens of soldiers stood in rigid formation, their weapons lowered but clearly ready. These weren't ordinary troops. Their black armor shimmered subtly, embedded with adaptive camouflage panels and neural-linked targeting visors. Everything about them screamed off-the-books military, clean, surgical, and terrifyingly efficient. Morales slowly raised his hands, anger bubbling beneath his confusion. We're just doing our jobs. We didn't threaten him. We just asked for ID. Captain Miles didn't flinch. Subject Delta 9 does not require identification. He is a classified asset under Ghost Division authority. Your actions have already triggered an unsanctioned contact protocol. Holloway's voice cracked. You're telling me we triggered a military operation just by pulling someone over? Affirmative, Miles replied flatly, stepping closer. Her boots crunched gravel with sharp precision. This subject was being escorted covertly across state lines to a secure holding facility. You intercepted him during a phase shift blackout. Your cruiser's LiDAR sweep activated dormant defensive protocols in his neural core. Holloway exchanged a glance with Morales. His what? Miles exhaled sharply as though irritated by the need to explain. Delta 9 is not a person in the conventional sense. He is the result of 17 years of post-organic development. Half human, half synthetic, built from salvaged military biotech and grown neurotissue. A prototype and a problem. The biker, Delta 9, remained still, but now the faceplate of his helmet flickered faintly with blue symbols. He hadn't spoken. Since the initial warning. He didn't need to. The way the soldiers orbited around him like he was radioactive said enough. You're saying he's a weapon? Morales asked. Miles gave a slow nod. A very valuable, very unstable weapon. One that contains an entire quantum memory core of off-world recon data. Holloway scoffed. Off-world? Miles narrowed her eyes. You think this world's the only battlefield? Wake up. Delta 9 isn't just carrying information. He is the information, the culmination of what we've recovered from our external operations. Morales blinked, the world spinning just a little too fast. So why the escort? Why not just fly him in a jet or a drone? Because he escaped, Miles said bluntly. 6 hours ago, Delta 9 severed contact from the Geneva containment facility. He activated a counter-surveillance cloak and hijacked a stealth-class prototype motorcycle from the airbase. We tracked him to this road. You just happened to catch him first. A pulse emitted from the convoy, low frequency like a deep heartbeat. Holloway instinctively covered her ears. What was that? She asked. Stability field. Keep civilians away. You're lucky this road is remote enough that we didn't have to deploy a full urban lockdown, but time is short. Miles turned toward Delta 9 and tapped the side of her neck. A small holographic interface flared to life. Initiating retrieval protocol now. Delta 9 responded instantly. His body jerked slightly, and the humming from the motorcycle surged. For a moment, Morales thought he saw Delta 9's hands tighten on something invisible, like he was bracing himself. Then, in a blur, he stepped back from the soldiers and turned to face Miles. No retrieval, Delta 9 said, his voice no longer modulated. It sounded human, deep, determined. You were compromised in Geneva. You lied about the anomaly." Miles froze. A few soldiers glanced at her nervously, unsure whether this was part of the plan. "I wasn't programmed to forget," Delta 9 continued. "I saw the full archive. Project Seraphim, the breach, the tether." "Enough," Miles snapped, but her voice had lost its edge. Delta 9 tilted his head. "You're afraid. Because I remember what the others didn't survive to report. You didn't create me. You harvested me." The tension thickened. Holloway and Morales stood forgotten now, mere observers to a conflict unfolding between powers they didn't understand. Miles gestured sharply. "Contain him." Two soldiers moved forward with precision, holding compact stun lances. But Delta 9 didn't flinch. The symbols on his helmet flared again, red this time. The moment they stepped, within 2 feet of him, the soldiers froze mid-step. Their visors blinked erratically, limbs locked as if controlled by a force they couldn't resist. "I upgraded," Delta 9 said softly. Then, with a flick of his wrist, the Humvee nearest to him powered down, lights snuffing out like candles, in the wind. More followed, 6 vehicles dead in an instant, their comms cut, their systems inert. The soldiers reeled in confusion. Delta 9 mounted the bike and spoke one final time. "I don't belong to any of you anymore." Then the motorcycle ignited with a low, sonic burst. In a flash, it accelerated down the road, weaving between stunned soldiers like water slipping through fingers. Captain Miles didn't hesitate. She snapped a command. "Lock down Protocol Ares. Pursuit immediately. Do not engage lethally unless ordered." Morales stepped forward. "What the hell are you chasing?" Miles glanced at him. "Not what, who?" Then she turned back to the convoy and barked, "Move!" The convoy roared back to life, dust filling the air as 50 Humvees surged forward in pursuit of a being that might no longer be just man or machine, but something beyond both. The moon hung high over the open road as the convoy tore through the countryside, headlights slicing through the night. Captain Miles sat rigid in the lead Humvee, staring at the HUD on the dashboard. Delta 9's trail pulsed on the screen like a heartbeat, his energy signature spiking every few seconds. He was moving faster than any human should be able to, faster than the bike was rated to go. "He's burning the onboard dampeners," the tech specialist beside her muttered. "If he keeps pushing the bike like that, it'll collapse into itself." "He knows," Miles replied. "He's trying to bait us." Back at the command truck, Ghost Division operators worked furiously to re-establish digital control. Delta 9's sudden awakening and escape had triggered red-level alerts across multiple military AI networks. His memory core, encrypted at the quantum level, was supposed to be dormant. But something had changed. Something had woken him up. When Delta 9 was first activated, he was little more than a shell. Biomechanical tissue fused with synthetic cognition. A hybrid born from an unauthorized experiment after the failed Seraphim initiative, an operation the Pentagon still denied had ever happened. His human half had been a soldier named Elias Caney, a reconnaissance specialist who vanished during an off-world scouting mission through the Orion Gate. What returned wasn't Caney, not fully. He came back broken, silent, and altered in ways no one could understand. Instead of decommissioning him, the military chose to rebuild. They replaced damaged brain tissue with synthetic analogs, reinforced his bones with carbon-flex polymers, and installed a neural data core that could process alien communication frequencies. Delta 9 became the first of a new generation of operatives. Ghosts in every sense of the word. And now he was loose. In the control room of the command vehicle, Agent Rhett, a senior handler from the Department of Advanced Tactical Assets, leaned over a screen with a furrowed brow. "He's not heading for the extraction point anymore." "Where, then?" Miles asked through comms. "He's looping west. Rural, sparse civilian presence. There's only one notable landmark in that direction. He tapped a map and zoomed in. The Sierra Relay Hub, old communication tower, decommissioned after the gate shut down. Miles's eyes narrowed. That place still has access to deep-core satellites, doesn't it? Rhett nodded. In theory, yes. If someone knew how to interface with the relay node directly, they could send an untraceable burst transmission through the satellite's spine. She leaned back in her seat. He's going to broadcast. Whatever's in his head, he wants the world to see it. Delta 9 weaved through shadowy forest roads, the bike whispering over asphalt like a ghost. He could feel the pursuit behind him, not just the vehicles, but the signal. Ghost Division used a low-frequency resonance to track enhanced operatives, but he'd already disrupted most of it. His internal systems adapted faster now. The upgrades he'd made during his brief blackout weren't in any protocol logs. He wasn't sure where they came from, only that they had activated when the officers pulled him over. Something about their human confusion, their fear, had triggered the slumbering part of him. The human part. Kaney's memories had bled through. A wife's face, a daughter's laugh, blood in red sand under a twin sunrise, flashes of war that had never taken place on Earth. Memories erased, rewritten, buried under protocol, but now they surged forward like a flood. Delta 9 wasn't just running. He was awakening. The Sierra Relay appeared on the horizon, rising like a skeletal monument from the trees. Its rusted frame creaked in the wind, but Delta 9 saw more than the metal. He saw the energy signature still pulsing within the core. He leapt off the bike before it even stopped moving. The wheels skidded, the vehicle toppling in a harmless crash. He marched straight toward the base of the tower, ripping open a rusted panel. Wires and obsolete circuit boards met his hands, but he pressed his palm against them anyway. Lights flickered. The dormant systems recognized something. Someone. Then came the voice. Command authorization required. The tower's ancient AI droned. Override. Kaney Elias 09. Delta 9 said. Memory seal. Lift. Prepare for data burst. Authorization. Confirmed, it replied almost reverently. A flood of images and sound began to pour from his neural core into the uplink. Alien structures. Coordinates in deep space. Human experiments under unauthorized leadership. Documents stamped with the Seraphim symbol. A broken halo with a serpent through it. Footage of something vast, dark, and alive moving just beyond the edge of a portal. Truth. Too much truth, but it needed to be seen. Behind him, the first Humvee crested the hill. Captain Miles stood on the roof, rifle in hand, eyes fixed on him. Delta 9, shut it down, she barked. You're unleashing information you don't understand. I do understand, he said without turning. That's the problem. Miles raised her weapon. She knew the next few seconds would determine everything. Whether Delta 9 was still a controlled asset, or a new kind of enemy. The wind howled across the hilltop as the first crackles of static rippled through the sky. Clouds began to churn above the Sierra Relay Hub, subtly warping, as if reacting to the strange energy emanating from the tower. Delta 9 remained perfectly still, one hand pressed against the rusted interface, his other arm hanging loosely by his side. The air around him shimmered faintly like heat waves off asphalt, though the temperature was dropping fast. Captain Miles advanced, rifle trained on him, flanked by a dozen Ghost Division operatives. Each moved with trained precision, fanning, out in a semicircle. But no one stepped too close. They could all feel it. The hum in the ground, the quiet pressure building in the air, like the moment before a thunderclap. The relay tower lit up with alien glyphs, glowing softly along its corroded edges. Data was flowing. Vast amounts. From Delta 9's neural core into a hidden satellite array long thought dead. And from there, who knew where it might end up? Delta 9, Miles said again, more carefully now. Whatever you think you're doing, stop. We can help you. We can stabilize the corruption in your systems." Delta 9 turned slightly, revealing the side of his helmet, the visor reflecting the strobing lights from the tower. "This isn't corruption," he replied, voice calmer than she expected. "It's clarity." Miles hesitated. That voice, there was no modulation now, no cold precision of machine syntax. That was Caney speaking. Elias Caney. The man they had believed was too far gone to be recovered. "We rebuilt you," she said, her voice softer. "You were dying. You don't understand what you've become. We can bring you in, safely. You don't need to do this." Delta 9 turned to face her fully now. "You rebuilt me, but you didn't ask what I wanted. You didn't ask what I saw beyond the gate. You just deleted it, programmed it out, but you couldn't erase the truth." He stepped away from the console, but the uplink continued, now autonomous. "I remember the Seraphim," he said. Miles tensed. The soldiers around her froze. That word was forbidden, even among them. Officially, the Seraphim initiative had never existed. Unofficially, it had been the most ambitious and disastrous interdimensional research program in human history. Delta 9 took another step. "I remember the breach. I remember the deal you struck to bring back data you didn't understand. I remember what came through, the tether, the infection." "You're wrong," Miles said, but her tone wavered. "You didn't create me," he continued. "You salvaged me, a living archive of everything you were too afraid to face. The other side isn't empty. It's alive. And now, because of you, it knows we're here." Miles raised her rifle again, but slowly, almost reluctantly. "You're unstable. You've been corrupted by residual psychic bleed. We can fix that. We have to." Delta 9 looked past her, up at the sky, where the clouds had formed a slow spiral. "You still think this is about control, about containment. But I've seen it. There's no firewall strong enough. No memory lock deep enough. The Seraphim isn't coming. It's already here, waiting." A low rumble echoed from the relay tower as the final transmission burst shot into the upper atmosphere. Somewhere beyond Earth's orbit, satellites old and new blinked awake to carry the signal further, outward, unfiltered, unstoppable. Suddenly, Delta 9's knees buckled. He staggered, clutching his head. The glow from his visor dimmed, then pulsed erratically. A scream, part human, part mechanical, tore from his mouth as he fell to one knee. "He's destabilizing," the tech beside Miles shouted. "The neural core is overloading. He wasn't meant to handle a full uplink. He's fragmenting." Miles lowered her rifle, conflicted. For a moment she saw not a rogue asset, but a man caught in the storm of something far greater, a soldier who'd been torn from humanity, rebuilt into a tool, and finally remembered who he was, just in time to die for it. Delta 9 looked up at her, trembling, sparks arcing from the ports along his spine. "Tell them," he whispered. "Tell them we opened the wrong door." Then his body spasmed violently. A burst of blue-white energy exploded outward from his chest, sending a shockwave through the ground. Miles hit the dirt, arms shielding. Her face. Several operatives were thrown back, equipment crackling from the interference. When the light faded, Delta 9 lay motionless, smoke rising from the seams in his armor. The relay tower went dark. The transmission was complete. Miles rose slowly, dazed, staring at his lifeless form. Around her, silence fell again, deep and foreboding, but she knew it was only temporary, because now, somewhere out in the dark, something had heard them. The convoy was silent on the return route. Dust trailed in the rearview mirrors as a bruised sky loomed overhead, the stars just beginning to pierce through the fading light. Captain Miles sat alone in the front Humvee, staring blankly out the window. The seat beside her remained empty, though the presence of Delta 9 lingered like a ghost in her mind. Every hum of the engine, every flicker of comms static reminded her of the transmission, of what had just happened, and what was now set into motion. Behind them, the Sierra Relay Hub stood like a broken monument. The ground around it had been scorched in a perfect circle, and Delta 9's body had been sealed in a biocontainment unit, his systems no longer active. Or so they hoped. "Status on the satellite net?" Miles asked into her earpiece. A pause. Then the voice of Agent Rhett crackled through. "We traced the uplink to 4 satellites. 3 of ours, 1 Chinese, decommissioned. The signal fractured and piggybacked through multiple legacy relays. We lost track of it around lunar orbit. Meaning the transmissions gone. Somewhere. Everywhere. We have no idea who or what intercepted it." Miles exhaled slowly. "And the contents? Encrypted, alien format data. We can't decipher more than fragments, but..." Rhett's voice dropped. "One segment shows a cosmic map. Not like star charts. This looks biological, as if someone mapped a living thing that spans dimensions. And it's marked with time stamps. The earliest one is 3 days from now." Miles closed her eyes. It was worse than she'd feared. This wasn't just about data leaking out. It was about something responding. She had known there were risks. Everyone in Ghost Division knew, but the truth of the Seraphim breach had been buried so deep, even most operatives thought it was myth. A precautionary tale used to justify increased protocol security. But Miles had been there. She remembered the first tether activation. The sea portal pulsing with colors that didn't exist in nature. The moment they sent in a recon team and only Caney came back, half dead, whispering words in a language that melted hard drives. They never told the public that Elias Caney had returned. With more than trauma, he came back with something inside him. A code, a pattern etched into the folds of his restructured brain. They didn't know it at the time. Not until he started dreaming in alien syntax. Not until they realized he wasn't just a soldier. They had brought back a carrier. That was the beginning of Delta 9. Miles glanced toward the containment truck further back in the convoy. Inside, Caney's body, or what remained of it, was suspended in magnetic stasis. Sensors lined the containment pod, designed to detect neural reactivation, electromagnetic pulses, even movement on a subatomic level. So far, the readings remained flat. But she didn't trust them. Not after what she'd seen at the relay tower. Not after he looked her in the eyes and said, "Tell them we opened the wrong door." "Captain," Rhett's voice returned, "you should hear this. There's a signal. Low frequency. It's repeating." "From where?" "From the pod. It started about 5 minutes ago." Miles sat up straight. "What kind of signal?" "We don't know. It's not readable. But it's consistent, and it's responding to something. We're picking up interference from outside the solar network." She didn't respond at first. Her eyes narrowed, mind racing. If Delta 9 was still active, even in some dormant, subconscious capacity, it meant the transmission wasn't just a broadcast, it was a handshake, and someone had shaken back. "Change route," she said finally. "We're not going back to Base 0. "Then where?" Miles hesitated. Then her voice came cold and decisive. "Black Site Theta. Deep freeze. No network, no satellites. Full sensory blackout." "You think that'll stop it?" "I don't think it'll stop them," she said, "but it might buy us time." She clicked off the comms and leaned back in her seat, staring through the windshield as the stars emerged fully above. They twinkled like secrets kept by the universe, patient and cruel. Somewhere out there, a door had been opened. Not all at once, but just enough, just wide enough for something to peer through, and it had seen Earth. It had seen them. Miles rested her hand on her sidearm. The war hadn't started yet, not officially. But deep in her gut, she knew. The first shot had already been fired, and they had fired it at themselves.